Hi everyone, I'm Alona and this is People Plus Ideas, my project that I have recently started to talk to different English-speaking people and discuss different topics. This is the second episode with George Kourounis. George is from Canada and he is a Canadian explorer, storm chaser. I met him in 2015 when we were on a filming trip to the Pole of Cold, and I was his fixer, translator and guide. So it was a fascinating trip. That is why I wanted to meet with him after such a long time. I reached him out and I recorded this conversation. I hope you enjoy it, and you're welcome to follow, comment, of course, and share. I'm just so pleased to see you.
It's great to see you as well. Last time I saw you was 2015, I do believe.
We're on our way to one of the most northerly cities in Russia. Just 280 miles from the Arctic Circle, 6 time zones from Moscow. I'm joined by Aliona Pimenova, who'll be my translator and guide as I travel to some of the coldest places on Earth.
Have you been back there since?
No, it was enough.
What, you don't like minus 40 every day or colder?
Actually, I quite like that dry, dry cold. I liked it, but it was just enough.
Exactly. Done. Check. That was great. Let's never do that again.
I was thinking how to introduce you, and you've got such interesting titles. A Canadian explorer, adventurer, storm chaser, a TV host, obviously. That's just not something you study at the university.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I do have a lot of unusual titles. I do some strange things, and there is no school that teaches how to be an explorer, storm chaser, or any of these things. So for me, it started years and years ago. I started chasing storms in the late 1990s. I saw my first tornado in 1998. And I did a lot of reading, a lot of studying. The internet was becoming more popular, of course, at that time. So I got to learn quite a bit. And then I teamed up with some experienced storm chasers who would take people along with them to help fund their own storm chases. And so I got to spend weeks at a time driving around, learning how to forecast the weather and learning how to navigate around these storms with people that I knew from television documentaries. So that was a wonderful experience. And that just kept escalating, doing more and more every year. And I was working full time. I used to be an engineer working in recording studios. And I would take my vacation time and I would work all this overtime and I would save that. And instead of taking money, I would take extra time off. So every year I would do just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more while working my full-time job, learning and studying, doing these trips, going from tornadoes to documenting hurricanes to wildfires in British Columbia. I did my first volcano expedition in 2005. And eventually I had to quit my job when the TV producer, a gentleman by the name of Peter Rowe, called me up one day and said, I read about you in the newspaper. What you do sounds fascinating. Let's make a TV show.
Amazing.
And then I had to quit my job.
Amazing. Yeah. Slowly.
So it was a slow process, very slowly. There was no overnight sudden success. There were events along the way that were definitely important. Hurricane Katrina back in 2005 was a devastating storm. At the time, it was the costliest natural disaster in U.S. history. I think it still is. And I remember coming back. I live in Toronto. I was down for the storm. It was horrendous. And when I got back home, there were 6 television news crews lined up, like, waiting to interview me when I got back from that storm. because they wanted to talk to the one. There's only a small handful of us that are driving towards it while millions of people are driving away from it.
Mhm.
So they thought that was interesting. So there are these little events that helped to guide my career,
Right.
but it was never one thing.
Mm. When did you start feeling that you're becoming popular? Oh, famous. I don't know. What's the right word?
I wouldn't call myself famous in any regard, but I do get recognized when I travel. I remember one time I was going to Greece to give a TEDx talk in Athens, and somebody in the airport recognized me and came up to me and said, "Do I need to be afraid of anything? Is there some disaster about to happen?" And I'm like, no, you're safe. There's no storm. There's no disaster. I'm just going to go speak at a conference. So that was pretty funny. When season 1 of Angry Planet was released, we started filming in 2006. The first episodes came out in 2007. So it was right around then when I started to become recognized, especially here in Canada, because the show originally aired just in Canada. So yeah, that was a very weird experience for me. Yeah.
Hmm. Because I get to see you quite often on TV here.
I do a
Can you?
lot of television now, right? So it started with Angry Planet. Well, actually, no,
Uh-huh.
it didn't start with Angry Planet. It started with doing news interviews
Uh-huh.
because during a storm, my phone would be ringing off the hook because it was CNN or BBC. All these different news agencies wanted to talk to me. So I did all of these interviews and I got used to working with the media. And I frequently got asked to be interviewed for documentaries. And then I got my own TV show. And then we did 49 episodes of Angry Planet over the years. But then I still continued to do more television even after that show ended. And I still do now to this day. So I do a lot of work with the Weather Channel and History Channel, Science Channel, Smithsonian, National Geographic. And so, yeah, you flip on the TV if there's some kind of nature documentary or something talking about extremes of nature or natural disasters, you might see my face. Yeah.
Yeah. Talking of extremes, actually, I've got a very simple question. You choose quite extreme, dangerous places, right? So
Yes.
why? Why is it important to you? What's about it?
So I've always been interested in science and nature ever since I was a little kid. And as I got older, working my engineering job, I always had that little feeling in the back of my head that I wanted to revisit that as an adult. And I got a camera from my mother as a gift. And that got me interested in photography. This was in my 20s. And living here in Toronto, we've got one very tall tower in the city. It's called the CN Tower. And it gets struck by lightning sometimes up to 100 times a year.
Oh.
And so that's where it started, getting photographs of these lightning bolts hitting the CN Tower. And each bolt is 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. And I found that fascinating, right? These powers, these forces that we experience on this planet are extremely powerful. Sometimes they're very beautiful. A giant thunderstorm can be absolutely beautiful. An erupting volcano is amazing to witness. It doesn't seem real. And I've become addicted to that experience, that feeling of being in the presence of something much bigger than us. And I love to document that, be there myself, and then share that with as many people as I can. And what I find is that children are really excited about this stuff. And so I give a lot of talks at schools and I show these kids videos of me standing next to a boiling lake of lava or, in a hurricane with the wind blowing it close to 200 kilometers an hour. And the kids, their eyes go wide and they get really excited. And I hope that gets them interested in maybe pursuing a career in science, in nature, in conservation, and also teaches them a few safety tips as well. So maybe, who knows, when a storm comes for their house, they'll think, oh, I remember what that guy told me, and maybe take the family and go to the basement, or something like that. So for me, it's about the experience, the beauty, and sharing that knowledge for, especially for kids, for the future generation. Basically getting the next generation of explorers a head start. And I work with a lot of scientists as well. Sometimes I'll work with scientists because I have the experience and the abilities to be able to go into some places that are too difficult or too dangerous and get samples from these places, like inside a volcano or inside the Darvaza burning pit of fire in Turkmenistan. That's
Yeah.
an expedition. I'm very well known for that. It's this
Yeah.
pit of fire, and they call it the doorway to hell. Darvaza is the name of this place. And I led a big National Geographic expedition to go there, and we stretched ropes across this giant crater, this pit of fire. And then I was able to drop down to the bottom and gather soil samples. And we're looking for little bacteria living in the soil in this very extreme environment. And that can give us clues as to where we might want to look for life on other planets that have a similar type of environment. Right? And that has a lot of scientific value, but it's very difficult to get those samples. So that's where I come.
Of course, you had a very good protection, but how do you prepare, like mentally?
Yeah, so for an expedition like that, it was difficult because I was attempting to do something that no one had ever done before. So there was no previous example to learn from. But I had already done numerous volcano expeditions. So I had a lot of experience that was kind of similar. And I had a special heat protective suit. I had a special harness made out of the material they make bulletproof vests out of. I had a self-contained air system. I had a really good team working with me, setting up the ropes, these fire-resistant ropes. But the technical part of all the equipment is one thing. But like you say, preparing yourself to do something like that was very difficult. So we did a lot of practice. I worked with my team here in Canada, and we would set up the rope system over top of a river, this big canyon here in Canada. And I would have all of my equipment on, and they'd send me out on the ropes and descend me down and bring me back up, go through all the motions, all the steps, so that when the time came to do it for real, I didn't have to think about it too much. Another thing, a very important thing that I did, which seems crazy, but had a lot of value, was because this pit is full of fire, and fire is, it's very scary. And we humans have this instinctive fear of it, which is good, keeps us alive. But I wanted to make sure that I didn't panic at the bottom of this crater. So I hired a stuntman to light me on fire as if I was in a Hollywood movie, like I was a stunt performer.
Wow.
We did that twice in one night. And so I spent, let me think, each time we did it for 30 seconds. So I've spent 1 minute of my life completely on fire. And so that helped me to become comfortable in very close proximity to fire. So they have all this special gel they put on you. It's very complicated, but you're literally, like, your arms are on fire, your back is on fire.
Do you feel it somehow? Or like it's hot?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You feel it. I actually burned a little bit on my face during the process. So yeah, it's not completely foolproof, but it was a good experience for me, and I'm glad I did it. It helped.
So you've been to so many places, and you got to experience so like different extreme weather. What else? Extreme, how can you call this?
And different environments, right? I've been to some of the hottest places in the world. I've been to the rainiest place in the world. I've been to the coldest town in the world, to Oymyakon, Siberia, in Yakutia, with you.
Yeah.
And that was a great experience, driving across the Kolyma Highway, spending several days in the middle of winter, minus 40 degrees. I was actually expecting it to be colder. We actually, it was only minus 40. That was like a heat wave for that part of the world.
Very disappointing.
Well, I wouldn't say disappointing. It was still very, very cold. But But yeah, it could have been much colder. I can't remember what the record is in that town, -73 or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know the number off the top of my head. But yeah, being able to experience these environments, going to Antarctica, going to the Sahara Desert, to Greenland, to North Korea. I was climbing mountains in North Korea in 2017. So all of these really extreme places are places that I love to go to and showcase them to the world because they're so
Right.
beautiful. And not a lot of people get to go there and experience it themselves. It's too difficult. It's too dangerous. It might be too expensive. But because I work with a lot of television productions, we get access to a lot of these places that normally you wouldn't be able to go to, or would be much more difficult. The second part of what I do, I go and I experience these places, document them, and then I share what I've seen. And it's a two-part process. And the process is not complete until you've done the two parts. There's no value in me just going to a place, having the privilege of going to these amazing places, witnessing, standing on top of a volcano while it's exploding and throwing chunks of lava through the air, sometimes landing behind you. That is an incredible experience that not everyone wants to do themselves, but they can really get excited about seeing it and learning about it, right? And so I absorb some of that risk myself in order to showcase these places to the world. And I'm very happy to say, perfect safety record, not a single broken bone. I've never had to spend a night in a hospital from any injury that I've had. So try to do it as safely as possible. Get in, do what you have to do, and then get out quickly.
Safety first, yeah? Like
Safety first.
Yeah. You are already in that place. And are you afraid? Do you have any fears? Because it's just like, how do you cope with that?
Absolutely. I do a lot of preparation ahead of time, right? And the more research, the more knowledge you have, the better equipment you have, the better teammates you have, the safer you will be. But that doesn't always make it less scary. So having a lot of experience really does help you out. Like if I'm driving across some part of the United States trying to film a tornado, I can look at the sky and I can tell you what it's doing. Is the storm likely to produce a tornado? Which way is it moving? How fast is it moving? I can tell you that in a second because I've been doing it for 25 years. If you put me behind the controls of an airplane, I will panic and I will crash the plane because I don't know what any of the controls do, right? So by having expertise, and experience is what gives you expertise. And the more expertise you have, the less scary it is. But these things can kill you, right? Hurricanes can kill you. Volcanoes can kill you. Floods can kill you. Avalanches can kill you. Lightning can kill you. All of these things. So if you're not at least a little bit afraid, then you're not paying attention. So it's good to have a little bit of fear. And when I have that, that's a signal to me that I need to either back off, I need to double check with my teammates, I need to reevaluate my situation. So it's a call to action and not a signal to panic. It's okay to be afraid, just don't panic. Panic will get you killed. Fear will keep you alive.
Don't panic. Yeah.
It's a big difference. Bravery doesn't come from a lack of fear. It comes from having fear and doing it anyway, right? And so no one who has ever been brave has not experienced fear. It's the two are one and the same.
Actually, I heard about this saying, if you are afraid of something, just go and do that. Like face your fears. Yeah. But I'm not sure because I had experience with panic attacks, and I know that when you have a panic, nothing helps really. You don't want to face with your panic when you have a panic. So...
Of course, and that's why it's called a panic attack and not a fear attack, right? They're two different emotions. They're very different. And so panic is when you have this uncontrolled, this runaway, uncontrolled fear, and it's often irrational. And it's just our brain, doing weird things. And there's not much you can do about it. There are relaxing techniques you can do. There are certain perception techniques. You try and, pick out certain things that you see or things you hear, or there's little tricks to overcome a panic attack. But yeah, they're very, very real. I can't say that I've ever experienced one, but I've been around people who have, and it's difficult. And the trick is you don't want to have that at a time where it becomes mission critical. Right? So when I'm working with new people that I don't know very well, that becomes something that I have to keep in the back of my mind. Okay, what kind of experience does this person have? Are they going to be calm in this extreme situation? So I've got people that I work with regularly because I know that I can trust them and they know that they can trust me. If I'm doing a volcano expedition, I'll call up certain people. If I'm doing a tornado chase, I'll call up certain people because of that background.
Of course, yeah.
I'm afraid of all the things that I pursue. I'm afraid of hurricanes. I'm afraid of tornadoes. Right? But that fear is justifiable. Right? These things are dangerous, but I understand them enough. I'm curious enough about them. So you've got curiosity and fear, and they balance each other out like a scale. The more curiosity you have about something, the more it will pull you towards it. The more fear you have, the more it will push you away from it. So by cultivating curiosity about something that you're maybe afraid of, that will reduce the fear. The more you're curious, the more you study it, the more you learn about it, the less fearful it will be. But you can never fully eliminate it. There's been many times where I've been very afraid. It's like, okay, we're too close. It's time to go right now. Happens all the time.
Did you stop something?
Almost every time.
Really?
Well, I mean, almost every time where you get up to a certain point, and then you realize, okay, the risk now outweighs the reward. Right? So, okay, I'll get close to this tornado, but now if I get any closer, it's too risky, and there's no benefit for me getting any closer. So we will back off. So there's always, on almost every expedition, there's a line. And it's not always a straight line. Sometimes it's very blurry of where the real danger begins. And sometimes you can't see where that line is at all. That's why I trust my teammates. When I did the descent into the fire pit in Turkmenistan, I gave every member of my team permission to call it off, to stop it at any time for any reason, even if I disagreed. And I was the guy in the pit, and I was the expedition leader. So I knew that there was a chance that I may encounter some danger that I might not even be able to perceive. That someone standing at the edge, 60 meters away, who can see the bigger picture, would be able to detect.
I read some of your interviews, and you are talking there about the emotion of awe. Awe? Do I call it?
Awe, yes.
Awe. Emotion of awe. Yeah, it's something new to me, so I'd like you to explain maybe what is it?
It's this emotion that we experience whenever we are, the way I describe it, is the feeling of being in the presence of something extraordinary, like perhaps the birth of your first child, or you see some beautiful sunrise, or that overwhelming, it's not joy, it's joyful, but it's a combination of joy and sort of disbelief of being in the presence of something that's amazing, right? It may be an inspirational speaker. You're in awe of that person. You may see a beautiful canyon for the first time. But in our day-to-day lives, we don't get the opportunity to experience that emotion very often. And it's very powerful. You rewind in your mind and you think about the most memorable experiences in your life. And a lot of them will be when you're experiencing this emotion of awe. And so I've been very fortunate to be able to go to so many places, a giant cave filled with the largest crystals in the world, the size of tree trunks. It just blew my mind, right? And so because we normally don't get that many opportunities to experience that emotion in our lives. We get up in the morning, we go to work, we do our job, we go home, we make dinner, we go to bed. Right? It's those little moments that really stick in our brain. So what I try to do is expose as many people to the things that I find are awesome, and at the same time showcase how beautiful and powerful nature is. And it's very easy to experience that emotion when you're standing beside a I don't know, a lava flow that's pouring into the Pacific Ocean, or you're watching crocodiles in Kenya attacking a wildebeest, the awe of nature, right? So there's so many different hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times that I've experienced this. And it's just, I love it. I love it.
It feels quite powerful, you know, nature like that. And you are so little in comparison.
Exactly. Well, precisely, right? It's that feeling of how big the world is, how amazing it is, and how small we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been to Mount Everest base camp. I've never climbed the mountain, but just standing there in the Himalayas, looking around and seeing these towering, tallest mountains in the world, and the glaciers and the snow, it doesn't even seem real. It's just so beautiful. And you feel tiny in that landscape.
And all your fears go away immediately. Like that happened with me when I was at Kamchatka. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm here. Nothing else is needed. Yeah.
And you're just blown away by how beautiful it is. It doesn't seem like it's real because it's so different from your day-to-day life, right? I can't believe there are places like this in the world, right? And so every time I look up at my map, I see all the pins.
Have you got the pins?
Of course.
Oh.
Right? And so every time I look at the map, I look at places that I haven't been yet. And I think, okay, what's amazing that is in that blank spot, or that blank spot, or that blank spot? What can I go and see there that I think people would be interested in seeing? So, I've got a long list of, there's a long list of places I've been, but also a long list of places that I want to go. Yeah.
Wow.
Kamchatka being one of them. I would love to go.
Yeah, you should come.
At some point I will. Mongolia, I've never been to. Philippines and Western Australia and Svalbard and Eastern Greenland. I've been to Western Greenland, not Eastern. I mean, there's just so many. I could go on for an hour. Some people are really into history. Some people are really into bird watching. Some people are excited about hiking or trekking, right? So everyone travels for their different reasons. But for me, because I'm a huge fan of nature and the extremes of nature, whenever I travel somewhere, whether it's a place I really want to go to or it's a place I just happen to have the opportunity to go to, I can always find something interesting about the landscape, about the weather.
Right.
And I try to do the difficult places first, because as we get older, it gets harder to go to some of these places, right? So, that's why I go to places like the mountains of Nepal or Antarctica or North Korea, right? I can go to Belgium anytime, right? That's easy.
Antarctica.
I just got back from my 5th time to Antarctica.
Wow.
I've been there numerous times. I love it so much. I return frequently. I was a special guest on one of these expedition ships that goes down there, expedition cruise that goes down to Antarctica. So this was just a few months ago. And on board this ship, they had a submarine that you can go in, and we were down 174 meters below the sea in Antarctica, looking around at the sponges and the starfish and everything that's down there. It was an amazing experience to not just go to Antarctica, but to go deep underneath and literally seeing a place that no human has ever seen before. Every dive there, you're basically going places where no one has ever seen.
That's why I love my job, when I got to see all this, when you get access to these places.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's what started as a hobby, turned into a job, which turned into a career, which turned into a lifestyle, basically, right? I don't think I could ever hold down a regular job ever again.
No
I don't
way.
think I'm employable anymore, right?
No,
I don't
no,
know, maybe I don't
no
know,
way.
but you know, for a lot of years now, many years, I've been making my living doing television appearances, doing talks, selling photos and video, and that's been my life for a lot of years. And it's not easy. Some years are better than others. COVID was very difficult for me because I wasn't able to work at all. So there's a lot of risk involved, both physical, real risk, but also financial risk. So there's it's not for everyone.
Of course, no, but to me, it sounds like a dream job.
It's the coolest job. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. On my business card, it says explorer and storm chaser, and that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. My official title is explorer in residence for the Royal Canadian Geographical Society, and I work very closely with them. And they're a nonprofit, and their mandate is to make Canada better known to Canadians and to the rest of the world. So I act as an ambassador for them. Every time I travel, I always carry the flag of the Canadian Geographical Society with me, and I do talks for them, and I do podcasts for them, and it's been this wonderful relationship, and they've bestowed on me this beautiful title, Explorer in Residence, which I'm very proud of.
I don't know, like it's so much I wanted to talk about, but I know we're pretty much we're limited in time. There's one thing on my list that I wanted to ask you about the comfort zone. That some people say you have to step out of your comfort zone. Then there was another vision on that you better stay in your comfort zone because so much going on outside of your comfort zone. So you better keep your comfort to yourself, like be with your comfort, don't step out. But what do you think?
Well, we love being comfortable, don't we? I mean, there's no question about it, right? We love it when we are not challenged sometimes, right? But that's not where the growth is. You only grow as a person when you're exposed to new things. If you live in a bubble and you only go to the same websites and you only talk to the same people and you never leave your hometown, your world is very small, and your vision of the world is very small. So by traveling, by doing things you've never done before, by meeting new people, and none of the stuff has to be expensive, just by expanding, learning more, that's where you grow as a person. So, and the more you do that, the bigger your bubble gets, right? Until that bubble encircles the whole world. And even I, who have been to 80 countries and such, I mean, when I travel, there's a lot of times when I'm doing stuff that I'm uncomfortable doing, going to a place where I don't speak the language, or meeting people from new cultures, or doing these big expeditions and adventures where there's a lot of risk involved, or there's a lot of planning and preparation. That stuff's hard. And when you're doing the hard things, that's when you grow as a person.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the more that you do, the more you can do, right? So it becomes this snowball effect, if you will. So just like rolling a ball of snow down a hill, it picks up more snow as it goes, right? The more things you do, and the more of a variety of experiences you have in your life, the more skills you have, and then the more things you can do after that. And then you learn new skills, and then the more you can do after that. And then suddenly the things that you thought you were impossible, you can do with your eyes closed.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking about the Yakutia trip. And that, you get to this point when you really stop caring about, like you stop worrying about, because you discover what you are capable of. And sometimes you discover that you were thinking you're not capable of, but your body is much more capable of than you have thought of it. That's the paradox.
Absolutely. And you have to be open to the idea of improvising along the way. If you have a very rigid idea of how you want things to go, then you're setting yourself up to be disappointed. But if you allow yourself to sort of go with the flow in the situation, especially when you're traveling, you're going to have a good time. And I've been a musician since I was 14 years old.
Looking at these guitars, just you've got so many.
Yeah. So I've been a bass player for many, many years. I used to play a lot of jazz when I first started playing, and that's all about improvising. You make it up as you go. You get a bunch of skilled people together as a team. You've got an overall plan, but each person is improvising within that bigger plan, and then you come up with something that's amazing. It's the same thing as being on a big expedition. You have a number of teammates with a plan, but each person is not super rigid in their thinking, and you all work together and you improvise and you come up with something amazing. And that's the parallels are amazing to me.
Do you still play the guitars?
Yes, I do, every day.
Wow. Amazing. Okay. Because I just started learning to play bass. And
Oh, no way.
yes.
Good for you. That's awesome. I love playing the instrument. It's the unsung hero of the band. And you picked the right instrument, in my opinion.
Thank
I'm
you.
biased. Of course.
Okay. Right. It was amazing that you agreed to take part in this podcast. Thank you so much. And
thank you so much. As soon as I saw your message come in, I thought, of course, it'd be great to see Aliona again. I would love to chat. Thank you so much for having me on and letting me tell my stories, and I appreciate it so much.
maybe I will see you again. That would be really
Well,
nice.
if I do, you'll be the first person that I reach out to. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thank you, George.
Okay.
Pleasure
Enjoy
to
the rest of your day.
you too. You
Thanks
too.
so much.
Bye-bye.
So that was George, and if you would like to practice your listening skills, you can follow us here, People Plus Ideas. That's the project on YouTube. You're also welcome to follow us on social media, our school Posh Fox English. Thank you very much, and I will be back very soon.
Welcome to Yakutsk.
Fortune smiles upon the wrong. Fortune smiles upon the hunter's son. I need a bend, but I've no window. I need a hand to get me through. Writing songs will get me so far. Killing faith will help my brother. But at the end of the day, it's still you and me in a bucket. When the theory's said and done, it's still you and me in a bucket. Lions sitting in the cages, waiting for something to eat. And in the world they were the kings. Behind bars they have no pride. And I think that I am worse off, because I'm stuck behind them too. But at the end of the day, it's still you and me in a bucket. When the theory's said and done, it's still you and me in a bucket.
Oh, they've fallen over.
What happened?
When I'm driving down the wrong side, and it's all alien to me. When the background of a dried up town looks comfortable to me. Oh, it's a ghost town. When I'm coming up the hill, take me back to a world I don't belong in. Take me home to the grave.
Oymyakon.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'll remember that road. We only got stuck 20 times, maybe.